Whew. Either way, since I was just on the topic of payment processors like MasterCard and Visa, I have time, so I'm going to do another rant today, and this time about quote-unquote monopolies. And by monopoly, I mean Rockefeller-style monopoly. So if you aren't aware of what this fucker did, he was smart. What Rockefeller did is he went out, say he had a business, and then he was buying supplies from a bunch of other companies, and then he realized, hey, I could save so much money if instead of buying supplies from these other companies, I just bought these other companies or built up my own and made my own supplies. So he ended up owning, for a lot of the stuff he was producing, the entire supply chain to make sure that he never has to give anybody else money, basically. It's all at cost. It's all his. The entire supply chain he owned. And that was viewed as a bad thing. But meanwhile, in current year, that is quickly becoming what I believe is the only option to end all this constant deplatforming and censorship. Because you guys know how it goes, right? They ban you off of social media and then say, well, if you don't like it, just build your own social media. So you build your own social media platform, and then they dogpile your web host. They talk shit about you. They get your web host to deplatform you. Well, if you don't like it, build your own web host. So someone actually gets enough money, builds their own web host, and then they cry to the domain name registrars, and you get the domain name registrars to deplatform it. Well, if you don't like it, get your own domain name registrar. Someone makes their own domain name registrar, even though it costs like a ridiculous amount. I think it's like $500,000 a year or something like that to keep those running. It's a pretty big, ridiculous amount last time I looked into it. But yeah, so someone makes their own. And then what's the final step? The last boss is always the same. It's just like with Patreons. Oh, and you don't like Patreon? Make your own funder. So they do, and the same villains always at the end. It has to do with money. The banks and the payment processors and the credit card companies are the last boss, the final villains we need to destroy if we hope to end this deplatforming. Because they seem to have no problems deplatforming people. And we're at the step now where they're saying that, oh, well, if you don't like MasterCard or Visa or all these PayPal or Stripe, make your own. And we're kind of stuck because there's so many regulations around moving money. It's pretty much impossible to make our own. And even if we did make our own, we still have to play by their rules, or else they're not going to allow moving money between the two of us. We'd have to go back to the old-fashioned way of literally mailing physical checks to each other, which a lot of people in current year aren't too happy about. And luckily, that's where cryptocurrencies came in. But even then, a lot of these payment processors, they are very paranoid about allowing you to spend money to buy cryptocurrency. So we got to find some very creative ways to do that. And, just because I have to mention the final step. Final step, the government comes in and shuts it down. Well, if you don't like it, make your own government. At that point, they're not going to like our response once they push us that far. Let's just say that. But we're already living in a world. I put out a video a few months ago where I was pointing out that we're one step away from banks shutting down your personal bank account because they don't like your politics, or you being refused service at the grocery store because you said the N-word 20 years ago on your MySpace page or something stupid like that. Since I made that video, that's actually come to pass. Companies and individuals have had their accounts shut down just because the banks don't like them. So what was it? Was it Elegy Records? I think it was. It was a heavy metal label. They got their business account shut down at their bank because of some nebulous hate speech shit or whatever. And then one of the guys who was in the Proud Boys, his personal bank account got shut down. I believe they shut down his girlfriend's personal bank account too. This is going to get dangerous. Because what do you guys think is going to happen when this becomes more common, because they're always going to, they always do, just like any other censorship and oppression, they start real small and they keep building up. Once you actually drive somebody to the point where they're unemployable, they can't even shop at the grocery store, they can't even have a bank account. Let's just say some of these people may feel like taking those who did that to them down with them. That's all I'm going to say there. So things aren't going to get pretty. Those of us who are actually trying to avoid having that happen, we're actually realizing that the only way would be some Rockefeller-style complete monopoly of the supply chain. Because every time these motherfuckers tell us, oh, if you don't like this, make your own, and we actually do make our own, despite all the odds being completely against us, then they just attack the next link up. They made their own, but they can't function without this next step, so let's just kick this next step out from under them. And, oh, well, if you don't like us doing that, make your own. That's going to be the future right there. Like Tim Pool always talking about how there's going to be a shooting war in America if this keeps up. He's right, by the way. That will happen. And what do you think is going to happen when you drive a large chunk of the population, you make them homeless and unemployable and desperate? They're going to resort to desperate measures. So in order to avoid that, funny enough, we need a completely parallel financial system, which of course will cause the government to shit bricks and try to come down on us. But it may be the only way. And we may even be able to head that off, to be honest with you. If we did something like, we completely operated outside of the banking system. And that's, again, I think I pointed out the system China has, where transferring money digitally in China is almost like transferring cash. If I wanted to give you $100 in cash, I would give you $100. If I wanted to give you $100 in cash digitally, 3 or 4 different banks or payment processors would be skimming money off the top on the way from me to you. And in China, that's not the case. So we need a system like that, where transferring money digitally is as easy as it is physically. And to do that, we may have to piggyback off of crypto and work completely outside of the banking system, which will obviously piss off the banksters and the politicians they own. But we may be able to get away with it as long as we keep meticulous records of every transaction that are impossible to tamper with. Because that's really all the government cares about, to be honest with you. All they care about is being able to have full knowledge of where all the money is. We could work on a system that they can't track later, but at first, we need to defeat the banks because they're going to try to use the government as a weapon to take us out. They always do. And I think PayPal even did that too. Because after PayPal was created, all of a sudden, all these new laws were brought on the books that pretty much makes another PayPal impossible. And I believe PayPal had a lot to do with that. What a surprise. They wanted to head off all their competition, am I right? As soon as we create something that the banksters can't control, they will try to use their dogs in the government to take us down. So we're going to need to have something to show the government that, no, unlike with these banks, you got nothing to worry about with money laundering. Look, we'll give you full access to our records. Happy? And they're probably going to be pretty happy with that. So after we put the banksters out of business, then we come out with our system that the government can't even track. We have to save that for later. But yeah, this is a sad world we're living in, where if we actually want freedom and to avoid being deplatformed, we have to do things like this. But all we're missing is the support of a couple of billionaires, I guess. I mean, any libertarian billionaires want to fund something like this? Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I'll spread the word. So yeah, let's get on that. That's all I got to say about that.